Welcome back to From Corporate to Cash Flow. We're Andrew Cannon and Liz Schwab, two pharmacists navigating the process of building time and financial freedom through real estate investing and lending while working our day jobs. Navigating the journey is difficult, but our podcast guests are experts in showing us how it's done. And today we have Bridgette Ruiz. Bridgette, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Andrea, for having me, and Liz.
Yeah. Thank you, Bridget, for joining us for this conversation. We are very excited to hear about your entrepreneurship journey and other things that you're focusing on now that I think will be very applicable to a lot of our listeners. So, to get us started, could you tell us a little bit about your journey into real estate and what specifically are you focusing on now?
Yes, love it. So, my journey started, I live in Southern California, and I think back to when I bought my house 23 years ago, and I would say I'm going to be a real estate investor. And I was in HR, had been well into my career at that stage of life, and I'm still in that. I'm still in that capacity, and I'm doing and building outside of my corporate work on the side, and this has been ongoing for several years now, and it's an exciting journey because I've gone from completely being in a corporate capacity, thinking that's the way to build the legacy for my family, and I've now learned that's not, and I am doing and building so that I can help my future generations ahead of me be far off, be much better than where I am today. And as hard as I'm working today, I'm hopeful that they will be able to add such benefits to this world that they didn't have to go through all that I'm working through, which I'm grateful for. And I'm grateful for my generations behind me because they were already planting the seeds, but they didn't get as far as where I am today. And I recognize that they did some wonderful things and I was learning, but I didn't know it. I didn't come from wealth. I didn't come from a lot. I lived a very, you know, middle class life, but I was learning that I can make it even more. I can build and I can bring value to the world. And they were doing it too that they didn't recognize. So the journey has been a long time and I continue to build.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Can you tell us what you're doing now then? Like, what is your main focus, or what have
Yeah.
you been, like, what avenues are you going into?
Yes. So I focus on sober living and just affordable living in general. I think back to my generations, when I look at even current day, my husband and I, our families, we talk about the co-living models and so forth in real estate and affordable living and so forth. I've seen personally, 4 generations in one house, in a single family house. 4 generations. So when we talk about co-living, this is not something new. This has been happening for a very long time. Uh, and when you recognize that that's how you keep a household moving forward sometimes. And so as an investor, I'm looking at how do I help people afford to live, and then from the specialty side of sober living, that has a special meaning to me because I grew up in a household with alcoholism and I see the value of the ripple effect. And I can speak to that now because I do have a sober living house. And I just recently was able to meet the families of 2 of them that live in the house. I have a house with 8 women. And to have met the families, that has just filled my bucket. There is absolutely, I go to bed knowing that I'm helping people and we can help people through real estate transactions. And that's what makes this work so meaningful to me. So I wake up super early in the morning and I have no problem with that because I know I'm doing this to help others and that there's a positive impact to others into their life with what I do. And it's a lot of work, but it's worth it.
Yeah, and so your familiar link to that, basically, is that one of the main reasons that you decided to start with the sober living houses, or was it because you said, I need to feel like I need to give back? Or, how did you make that assessment that this would be the best route for you?
Yeah, I love this question. I remember the day I had already been on the journey of real estate investing, and I thought, okay, I thought actually multifamily was going to be where I was going to start. And then I realized, and I literally was in the shower. I was washing my hair. I was ready to go to church. I was getting showered, and I just started to cry. And the emotions filled up super high because I started to reflect. And it's kind of in those moments when you're either going on a walk or you're in the shower, you're in something mindless, and you have that time to really hone in. And I started to recognize that I do have a background in business and human resources. And by then I had a pretty long career, and I started to think about my entire career up to that point and what talents God has given me. I'm also a certified Clifton Strengths coach, and I know the talents that I have and that I could apply them in my life, not only for the work that I do, but for my impact on this world. And so I literally was in the shower, I was washing my hair, started to cry because I recognized that the talents and the skills and the work that I had done my entire life up to that point was leading me to help families. And more so the ripple effect, because yes, the people in the house, they need community. They need others who are on the same journey. Their families want them well. And that ripple effect is what really the passion behind what I do comes from. And I did get to meet two of them just this last month. And that was super powerful. It was so wonderful to meet them because they were so grateful. And it's daughters, right? They have daughters. And they just were so grateful that they have this opportunity to become independent and to live with others and to take responsibilities. They have chores, they have things that they now have as they are learning the skills that they need, the life skills they need. And this housing helps them.
Yeah, that's so sweet. I think a lot of people can relate to the feeling that, it's nice to do something that you're passionate about, but it's even better when you get that feeling of being able to give back to the community and get that extra fulfillment for whatever you're putting all of your time into. So I love that for you. And I'm wondering if you can expand a little bit more into like what exactly is the Clifton Strengths, and can you maybe give us an example of what your strength was and how it linked to this opportunity for you?
Yeah, I love it. So Gallup and the research behind Clifton Strengths, there is an organization that very likely you as a listener have probably read some sort of article, and there's reference to Gallup research. And they research a whole lot of things, whether it's in business or they're a research company. And so Clifton Strengths is about us as individuals and our natural thoughts, behaviors, and those beliefs that are just innate. We all have them. And there is some strengths that we recognize, and you probably already know about yourself. I know about myself, I'm a high achiever, and that's your go to, but it is technically the number one theme that we see. There are 34 of them, different themes that are our strengths. It's defined by a single word, but that single word doesn't mean that's the only meaning behind the definition of that. But high achievers, for example, that was my number one when I first took it 13 years ago. And it's been the theme that I lean on every single day. And for a high achiever, for those who may not be familiar, we like to just have a list and check things off. And I feel like even on vacation, I cannot sit back and do nothing. I'm sitting at the beach and I'm already in my head going, okay, wait, what are we doing tomorrow? And tomorrow we're going on an excursion. Okay, great. And I'm already thinking, I can't turn my brain off. That's the other downside, by the way. I go to bed and I'm like I wake up and my brain is already tick, 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 tick. What do I have to get done? What did I forget? That's the downside to the achiever. Is the good side is you're constantly pushing and moving things forward. You're an executor. You get things done. On the downside, because they all have them, there's a good, like when it's in its best and performing well, that's good. When it's in your blind spot and you don't know, that obviously there's some hindrance there. In this case, the hindrance is sometimes I do not get some good quality sleep because I wake up thinking about the things I need to get done. So I think that particular strength has helped me, and in some regards, I have to really release the throttle. I think of it as like I'm driving a car. I have pulled myself to a place of burnout because I was on full speed ahead, and instead now I've learned to release a little and not push too hard to a point where burnout happens.
Yeah, so should all achievers go into sober living or real estate investing, or how do you figure out like what those things relate to? Because I'll give you an example. Achiever for me, I've done the Clifton Strengths test. I pulled mine up. Achiever was number 9 for
Mm-hmm.
me. So like, I'm also interested in sober living. Does that mean no? How do you like relate these things, right?
Yes, yes. So the beauty of us as individuals, as humans, is we all show up different. And so yours might be a number 9, mine might be at number 1. It doesn't define us. It doesn't make like that we're always in that kind of definition. And so that's one of the points that when I'm delivering, whether it's a facilitated high performing team discussion around our Clifton strengths or I'm doing a one-on-one coaching, it's always understanding the individual and helping them see what does this look like in my life? How do I see these things show up in my life? And it's showing up both in your personal life and your professional life. There's no difference. You are who you are, and whether it's in the workplace or whether it's your loved ones, they will very likely say very similar things as far as how you show up as a person. And so you could have achiever and not even be interested in sober living, or it could just be you are passionate about something and you will get there because you're checking things off the list, you're moving yourself forward, and there is that execution that follows with it.
I do love a good list. So number 9 must be showing up strong for me.
I love it. Yep. That's
I
good.
love it. Well, so tell us a little bit more about, okay, so sober living. Are you doing it in California? How did you find your markets? What specific take are you doing? Are you doing Oxford House? Are you doing something different? Like tell us a little bit more.
Yes. So I started my journey in North Carolina. My goal is to eventually be here in California. But here's the most important part to somebody who wants to operate a house is to have the operator physically there in the market. And I do. I have a wonderful team member. She is in North Carolina and comes with tons of experience, and I appreciate her for her expertise. And she appreciates me actually from the HR piece, my expertise in human resources. And so we feed off one another really well because of our expertise. And the market in North Carolina came about. It's a funny story. I won't get into a whole lot of it, but there's a doctor I follow because I'm a really huge health advocate and longevity is important to me. So I want to live a long time building this wealth. I want to see my generations after me, right? And so I'm very focused on my health. And so anyhow, North Carolina, there's a specific city I'm really interested in as well. But besides that, North Carolina was the market that I chose. And I just said, I'm all in. I really like North Carolina. And I love it more and more. Every time I visit, I just recognize I like the people. And even my husband, who came with me recently, when I went to an Oxford House event recently, um, even he said, the people there, it is very special. They're very different than California. And in California, in the market here, I would need somebody that has that expertise, right? Again, going back to yes, I have a family. Yes, I recognize that I grew up in a household with it. You need that experience, that life experience, and be able to, if you're going to operate, have that. And so I have someone on my team to help me with that. And I think that's an important part of identifying that market. So yes, I have the active side, and that's the business that I'm focused on right now is my generations restored living, and that doing two different things. One, most important, is the housing side. And then number two, this is where I'm really building, is to help other investors who want to make an impact, who are looking to buy and hold an asset, a house, and to, again, you need that nonprofit. And we have relationships, and my team member has this across 44 states where we can help investors. Yeah, we can help investors from across the country find those markets in need, because that's a challenge. And I know from myself, it took me over a year to make that and build that relationship with the operator, right? The nonprofit. And the nonprofit is the one who's actually doing uh, the the really hard lift. They're the ones who are managing the tenants. They're when somebody is no longer in the house, the bed that gets replaced, and they're doing the interviews, and they're looking for the right people to come in. And I'm not getting those phone calls. So I do have one as well. I have a Oxford house, and I know what that looks like, and I know that it's the most passive type of investment that I've ever done. I've done private money lending. I I've done creative deals as a buyer. I've done a variety of transactions. So excuse me. So I've seen a little bit of I've seen the hard work. I know the hard work, but this model to have with a nonprofit is the most passive and very rewarding. Again, you have to be a buy and hold investor. You can't be thinking that this is going to be, I'm going to buy and then I'm going to sell it in a year. There are people living in the house and they're dependent upon you keeping it. And that is the model that helps them with the stability and the housing that they need for a long period of time. So if you're a buy and hold investor, that's where my service comes in. I'm able to go find the markets. I'll sit down, do a one-on-one, and then try to understand, what markets do you want to be in? Because ultimately you're going to either bring a house or I can help you find the house. And so, and then finding the match for what the operator needs.
Man, that's so cool. Liz and I looked into sober living probably 2 years ago at this point in time now. And it was really difficult. Like you said, it took you a while to find that operator and cultivate that relationship. And it was really difficult to find the right people. And
Mm-hmm.
only recently I feel like you just get nowhere and nowhere, nowhere. And all of a sudden there's maybe something. So next week I have one of my properties that's getting evaluated for a potential sober living. And it's like funny because it was like nothing going on in that space. We had expressed interest, but then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I've had now 6 meetings. I'm meeting this person. They seem like it would be a really good fit from an operator side. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking for a house. I have a house. Like, let's see if this works out. So they're looking at it next week. I don't know if that's going to move forward or not, but I am like very interested in this space. So I love how you describe that people can either have a house or they can have an interest and you can kind of match these things up. So if I found a house that looked like it might be a good fit, or I had a house that might be a good fit for sober living, would it be appropriate to then reach out to you and see what your assessment would be?
Yes, that's a great question. Absolutely, because my service is meant to help bridge the time that it takes. Because I know you're describing exactly. Congratulations, by the way, to have that
Thank you.
time to get it evaluated, because that is a major milestone. It is
Yes.
one of the most difficult challenge, and that's why I feel this service is so helpful to investors, because it takes a long time to get to this place. And whether you have the house, like you have a house that you see that match, or if you're saying, I want to have an asset that helps people, and I want to
Mhm.
help build not only a portfolio for myself and my family, but also help people with that as well. And so that piece to the puzzle is, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time and energy and follow up and constant work to get to a
Yeah.
place of that. And so I know because I've done that, and it takes a long time, and I haven't given up. And and I know that I can help other people get that, right? I can help them get those master leases, and then also to also help on the actual operating side and have a house that, is housing and providing that affordable living.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've shared so many lessons so far. I almost feel silly asking you this question because I feel like there's been so many gold nuggets that you've dropped for us. But you've had a really interesting journey, especially with the sober living piece. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned that you wish you knew sooner?
Um, well, I've already mentioned the don't give up, keep following up, it's all in the follow up. We hear that a lot, which is true. Uh, I think the biggest journey, and this has been a lesson even today. I mean, I'm still in the thick of this, is to find the right people that you work with. And I think now with Clifton Strengths, this is also a tip that I've given and in many occasions, is that for me now, this is the tool that I use to help me determine, do I want to work with somebody? Because in corporate, you're taught to look at those top 5 of the Clifton Strengths, which is that person's, that's their engine, right? Think about a car. It's the engine that pushes them forward to success. In partnerships, you have to look at the bottom of the partner. And I didn't know this right away. I didn't recognize this because I was, again, in the corporate space looking at the top. And instead, I now look at the bottom. And am I comfortable with what sits at the bottom? Because that is what's going to show up when things get hard. And it gets hard. It will get hard. So I look at those bottom, I have an open conversation about it. We talk through it, not only theirs, mine as well. And how did those two potentially have some opportunity to surface? What are we going to see? And let's talk about it now. And I also recognize how to help my partners or those that I work with be their best. So I've done that, and I've seen how I show up in those scenarios where I can help somebody come to create the solutions that I know they already have. I'm just helping them get there with what I know about them. So again, that's a cultivated skill that I've learned, I think, over time. And it wasn't overnight, but that has taken me some time to hone and to develop. But I think as I work with people, and I feel like it's a powerful tool to have. To understand ourselves is huge. We need to know that, especially as leaders, especially as entrepreneurs. We have to know ourselves first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so I have a quick question about this because I've taken the Clifton Strengths like 100 times. I took it before it was popular because I'm
Yep.
just weird and I was excited to see, to read the book and take the test. But the ones that I've taken, I'm familiar with the top 5, and you're referencing the bottom. So is there another test that you take that shows your bottom skills then?
So there are 34 themes, and you're very common. We always hear everyone, what's your top 5? Because for you as an individual, like I was sharing, that's the engine to your success. There are 34. So those 34, it's listed. So if you purchased, for example, if you purchase the assessment and you take it,
Mhm.
you can get just your top 5. You mentioned the book. So in the book, they give you your top 5. There are the remaining 34 that belong to you. And if you haven't released it, you go back to Gallup and you can pay the difference, and it'll
Oh,
release the remaining of those 34 themes. So you'll get to see
okay.
from the top all the way down to number 34. And so as a coach, right, I'm looking at what are the complementary, when I'm looking at working with people, I'm looking at complementary themes, like
Yeah.
what pairs well with the others, right? Because your strength, for example, is you may have certain strengths and Andrea may have different strengths. And so
Yep.
in that combination, you probably see it. I can see the two of you smiling and laughing. Somebody recognizes that they're really good at something and the other person's like, that's just not me. I can't do
Mhm.
that. Right? So that's when you know you have a good partner, because you're saying, oh, great, you're going to help me in the area that I can't necessarily perform at best, but you can. And I can perform in another area that may not be your strength. So you can complement one another in that, because you have differences. And that's the beauty of it, is that you don't want to work with somebody who's exactly like you. You want somebody who can complement you.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah. We should be a case study for that because, yeah, we're really good friends, but we're very different in a lot of areas, but also the same in things that matter too.
Sure.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Love it. I'd love
And
to
then I
understand
wanted,
that some more.
yeah, yeah, of course. And then I wanted to circle back. I know you were saying that you came from, a middle class family, and I think a lot of people, as I mentioned previously, can relate to that as well. And people are always trying to understand, how can I gain financial independence, or what are some steps that I should be taking? So I'm wondering, I don't know, if you were to give someone just a pitch or some advice in 30 seconds, what financial advice would you give them for them beginning their journey?
Wow, that's such a great that's there's a lot to that question, because
I
there is
know, I
so
know.
much. I know, I think, well, see, and I also have a background in human resources and benefits and 401k plans, and there is a lot of misconceptions, I believe, around how we save for retirement. And one of the tools, and I think understanding that you do need to save and prepare for retirement, the sooner the better. Compounding interest is powerful. I'll start with that, and that means do something small, and I mean that. Put little bit of money away, right? Put something away, whether that's for your retirement, which is really important because that will sneak up on you. We're all thinking we're going to be here forever. We're not. And we need to save for that day when you want to sit back, or your health might need you to have done all that hard work. But it's small things every day. And I would say whether it's putting a bit of money aside and having that compounding interest side of things work for you powerfully, preparing for that. But I am a connoisseur of money too, and wealth, and not because of a greed perspective, but being a good steward of money and the legacy behind it. Because I know my next generations, the children, my children's children, and their children, I'm building for them that I never thought I'd ever be in this position to do. But I'm doing it in a responsible way so that when they get to this stage, I'm not handing them money or giving them things. It's not an entitlement. You'll have to add something of value to receive the money, whether that's my future generations going to college, whether they're choosing to buy a house. Those are all going to be things and stipulations that I put out there for them that they have to earn, whether they need to be doing something positive for that. You're not just going to be handed money and wealth.
I like that. And so, you're talking about they have to earn it, right? And so I'm wondering if there's any habits or routines that you've developed through your time in corporate that you're helping to pass on to your entrepreneurial side to help stay productive and focused on your goals. And maybe those are ones that you also might be passing on to your kids as well.
Hmm. Just this week, I feel education's really important. And I talk a lot about it with my kids, and they all do their eye roll back. Like, I see the eye rolls. They're just like, oh, great, Mom, you're talking about money again. No
Mhm.
one talked about money in my household. We did
Yep.
not talk about money. It was shameful. It was something you didn't discuss. I don't believe that there should be that feeling around it. It's not, if you're doing and using it for good, then absolutely you get good. If you're using it for bad, and that's where greed and all those other places, that's where it sits, and that's where I think a lot of people build this stigma around money is bad. It's not bad inherently. If you know how to manage it, if you know how to apply it to impact people's lives, that money is powerful, and it can help more and more people. And my children, I just sat down with my son this week and we discussed credit cards. We just said, what does a credit card mean? That is a small loan, and they want to make sure you have a job and a means to pay that back. And I'm only having this conversation because I understand that a FICO score one day will be important to them. And you
Mm-hmm.
need to learn to be a good steward of money so that when that time comes, your FICO score is beautiful and they go, you're credit worthy. And even though I live in a space, and I know Andrea and I live in a space where we talk a lot about creative finance and you don't have to have money, and no, you still do. You still have to have a solid habit and good hygiene around money.
Mm-hmm. God, I love this one because I mean, Liz and I have spent a lot of time trying to, and I'll just maybe speak for myself, like undo some of the money things that we learned as kids. And,
Mhm.
that is such a good thing to get started off with much younger in life, really understanding. I mean, my only thoughts around credit cards when I was younger were that they were scary, that they were bad. We did talk about money, but it was the lack of money, like,
Mm.
those were like, it was like, oh, we don't have enough. Oh, we can't do that because there's no money. Like, that was the times that money came up. It wasn't ever talking about money as a powerful tool or anything like that. And I recognized from like when I was very little that money was something that I didn't have and I wanted to have more of, but it was a weird kind of process of navigating that from childhood and even till now. And I see some of that still lingering. And so I appreciate that's like good money habits and hygiene are probably one of the top things. And I don't think we've ever had anyone say that on the podcast. They're all probably thinking it, but no one was putting it as eloquently as you. So I really appreciate that. So thinking about money is obviously a great tool, and having a good understanding and foundation is incredible. And not only do we want to figure out how to build wealth and really move forward in our goals, but we also want to have fun at the same time, right?
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
there's just a huge, like, if you put it off to one day might never come. So Liz and I love traveling, getting outside, exploring the outdoors. At the time of this podcast, we recently have come back from Norway, but at the time that we're recording it right now, we're going in a couple weeks. So I'm super excited about that. So I'd love to hear from you if you have any upcoming bucket list travel.
I love that. Yes. So I love this because I love to travel too. And my family, I just had this really hits home on how much time we have. And I have plans to go to Japan with my family. We've talked about this trip for a long time. We've always said that Japan has been a place that we'd want to visit. My husband has gone many times for work. I have yet to go. I have been to Korea. I should have been just hopping on a quick plane, but I remember the children were much younger and I just wanted to be at home with them. So it was no, I'm coming back home. Um, so Japan is in the future, and one of the things that this week actually has been um, getting back to this thought of doing doing things now because you don't know. One of my near and dear friends, who was my non sub two and creative finance real estate investor mentor, passed away, and knowing that he was proud of me for where I am right now, and that I'm doing what we had talked about and the things that we were discussing on a regular basis. I know he's proud, and I know that when I continue doing what I'm doing, that I will continue to make him proud, because he's a big a big part of my journey so far.
Ooh, you're gonna make me cry. Yeah, no, that's so nice. And I think, what you said is so important to remember to not wait, right? Because you never know when your time will be. And I think it's important to live in that moment too. So I think that's definitely something I also still need to continuously remind myself about. Because, I think Andrew and I both grew up like save, 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 or, like delayed
Yes.
gratification. And so
Yes.
I think that's something to be more mindful about, especially with your family members, to, try to take a vacation with them or have
Yep.
more personal time with them. So I think that's a really good reminder for everyone. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. And Disneyland, it's in my backyard, right? Because
Yeah, there
I
you go.
literally live I live in Anaheim. And even that to me right now, my daughter and I are planning. We're like, let's go. I mean, just those little things that I have been pushing so hard. So I'm starting to say, no, I need to do a little bit more fun. I need to sprinkle in more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure they will appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes. The whole family's invited, so we're all
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Come on,
yeah.
let's go. Let's have fun."
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And then, so to kind of maybe wrap up a little bit here, I know we talked about sober living and how it's a great opportunity for passive income for people who, maybe don't want to go through everything that you had to go through to get to where you are and can be like a little bit more hands off. So if someone wants to get in contact with you or learn more about this, or maybe even explore the Clifton Strengths things that we talked about, what's
Mhm.
the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yes, so my website is generationsrestoredliving.com. That will take you to my website. There's also an email if you wanna contact me by email. And then, of course, there's all the social medias, Instagram and LinkedIn. I'll say LinkedIn is my kind of go-to. I've been building that on my corporate life for a very long time, and that you can find me with just my first and last name, Bridgette Ruiz, as it's displayed here. You'll find me on LinkedIn, and then Instagram as well, which is Ruiz_Bridgette.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us today. It has been really great to get to know you better because I know we've met each other before and we've had a couple of conversations, but nothing this in depth. And you are really doing cool things. I love impact investing, where there's a huge purpose behind it. And it always makes me feel good afterward to hear about people that they're doing this and that you want to do more of it. Like this is just really, really exciting. And so we really appreciate you sharing your mission and everything that you've learned with us so far. And I think after a bit, we'd love to have an update from you too, just to see how things are going. So maybe we'll circle back in like a year or so and get you back on and hear more about how many sober living houses have you helped get set up
Mhm.
now, or do you have more yourself, and kind of how this has evolved if you're up for it.
I would love it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again for joining us. And thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode of From Corporate to Cashflow. We'll see you next week. Hey, it's Andrea. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, I'd love it if you hit subscribe. Thanks so much.